Welcome. Good morning. If you're a coach, an athletic director, a school administrator, perhaps you're a booster club volunteer, a student, thanks for tuning in. My name is John Piper. We are going to share some high level tips and tools to help get your game day either live each and every week during baseball season. Perhaps you are part of the football program and you want to start planning now for football season later this year. Perhaps you might be part of girls softball. It doesn't matter. These tools are going to help you get your game day broadcast either on the air live or in a podcast format to promote your program, to promote your athletes, and to really give back to your community. Do any of you have booster club sponsors that write you a check? Of course you do. Do they get any value out of that when their logo shows up in your program? And I've seen it. I've experienced this. When it shows up in that program, usually towards the end of the season, because it takes a while for those volunteers to get that program out there, do they really get any value out of that sponsorship? The answer is usually not much, but bringing that sponsor into your game day production, into your weekly podcast or your biweekly podcast is going to be so valuable, and your community is going to really enjoy it. Throughout this, whether you're watching this live on YouTube, Twitter, you're on the webinar platform, drop your questions, comments. I am going to go ahead and do this now. If you're watching the replay, we are going to share some bonus content after the webinar to those. If you'll just pop in right here, hashtag put in broadcast or hashtag podcast. We'll look through our social media feeds and on the webinar, and we will send you some complimentary content to help get you started. We want to just start the conversation. We are really proud of the work we've done the last 8 years and helped other programs in the North Texas community get their game day production on the air, and we want to help you. So thank you again for joining us. We'll get started. I'm just going to share some slides here, and you can also reach out to me directly right here, John at behindthedishmedia.com, and we can start the conversation there and get back to you. There's so much involved here, and the key thing is don't overthink it. If you think about trying to get to an ESPN type production, you'll never get started. We look to keep things simple. I've got worked with many students over the years, coaches, and if you're a coach, the last thing you want to do is be punching up buttons, dealing with a computer. That's something for either a student, a booster club member, perhaps a young assistant coach that is into technology, or many high schools now have a technology department. Get your students involved. That's really what's really unique about a high school game day production. All right, I'm going to share my screen with you. And we'll get into the presentation. Let's see here. All right. Here we go. Well, bear with us. We're trying to get the presentation up. All right. Let me just share this screen here. All right. Sorry, a little technical difficulty. And that's a great lesson when you're doing, especially live game action. And I've done a lot of live games. Not everything goes perfectly. I'll just share a quick story. I was broadcasting a Texas high school football game. It was a playoff game at Globe Life Field. I get those mixed up still. You know, the old stadium, the open air stadium where they were having some high school football. And on my way into the ballpark, that's what we call it a ballpark, I had some AC/DC on my phone playing in my ear with Bluetooth. And the recording device and the streaming devices that I use had a Bluetooth channel. So we're live first couple minutes. It sounded great in our ear, but the audience was texting us. We had friends that were texting us say, "Hey, what's that AC/DC playing in the background?" And we couldn't hear it, but it was playing through a Bluetooth channel. So great live lesson there that things can and will go wrong. So again, my name is John Piper. Thank you so much for being here. We are going to share some slides now and get into the program. Again, if you have any questions throughout this, you can post them to me directly. Let me put that up again for you. You can send me an email directly, john@behindthedishmedia.com. Also, if you're watching this on a replay, put in hashtag broadcast, hashtag podcast, and we'll send you some bonus content to help get you started, especially if it's baseball season. If you're in Texas, the clock is ticking. You don't have a lot of time to get your show on the air, but I'm confident learning through all of our mistakes over the last 8 years, we can get you on the air here in as little as about 2 weeks. So if you're thinking about it, don't wait till next season. Get started. Press record is what you'll hear me say often. That means just get started and you'll get better each and every week. I'm going to share a presentation now. All right, here we go. All right, high school sports broadcasting. That's what we're talking about here. And if you've stumbled on this and you've got a business, a small business or something, and you want to start a podcast, this can apply to you as well. I think audio is a great way to get your message out and on the air, but what a great way to reach your community, your audience, your student body, your fan base through either a live stream. It could be audio only. I've done that. It could be audio and video, or it could be just a recorded show each and every week talking about your program, talking about your athletes, what's coming up, players of the game, unique stories. There's stories. I love these kind of stories. A player that perhaps didn't make the team their sophomore year, their junior year, but they kept coming back and they made the team their senior year. Persistence, and they were a key contributor to that high school baseball team. All right. And in today's world of recruiting, social media plays such a big role in getting your players out there in front of folks. And it's, as a coach, hey, it's really not your job. It's not your job. I know, obviously, high school, especially here in Texas. And I would like to know where you're tuning in from. If you're tuning in from Kentucky or somewhere else, put in the comments, whatever platform you're on today. I'd love to know where you're coming from and your role at your respective school. If you're a coach, if you're just a parent, booster club, whatever it is, put in comments, and we'd like to know where you're tuning in from and what your role is on your team, your son or daughter's team. But nowadays, social media plays such a big role. I know a lot of, especially baseball, basketball, football programs spend a lot of time on Twitter. So perhaps, sharing this show, your weekly show on Twitter, or links back to a podcast platform, highlights, things like that, is a great way to share your message. I know just from experience, players, as they were headed to maybe getting on the bus and heading to an away game, would put like the coach's weekly show in their ear, talking about the Friday night game. And that was a way that they would just kind of get mentally prepared, mentally ready for that action, whether it's a baseball game, a football game, whatever it might be. And one of the most powerful things, and the reason we really enjoyed doing broadcasting, is there would be players, coaches that had friends and family that had moved away. Maybe the game was in Texas and they had relatives in New Jersey. They had family in South Carolina. They had their mom or dad was traveling for work. Maybe it's a Tuesday night game, it's a baseball game or basketball, or it was a Friday night game, and they were away on a business trip. They could tune in to the broadcast each and every week, and that's just so rewarding. And I mentioned earlier your sponsors. Weaving in that sponsor's message adds so much more value than just putting an ad in the back of your program. Social media, that far and away, I know a lot of coaches at the high school and college level, they usually start with getting attention on a social media post, maybe a player's video. It could perhaps be your live stream, your weekly show. DMs through Twitter are a great way to establish a connection. And as a player trying to get recruited, it's all about getting attention in a positive way. Or if you're a student that just graduated college and you're looking to get a new job, the same applies. You're trying to get the right attention at the right time in a positive way. And any interns that might be tuning in to this, or folks that are looking for their first career job, that's great advice. This is me and my one of my broadcast partners, Rick Threlkill. We had a chance to broadcast a game at the Cotton Bowl right there in the heart of Dallas, Texas, and what a great day that was to bring a broadcast to the fans. Not all fans could get to downtown Dallas for this game, and it was a beautiful day. I think that was actually a Saturday, if my memory serves me right. But we did some unique stuff in audio format, talking about the history of the Cotton Bowl, and there's so much storied history there. The Texas OU game that is played down there each and every year is just might be the most unique college tradition and game in all of college football, and I think many of you might agree with that. And if you're a Texas or an OU fan, put that in the comments as well. We'd love to know that. And, you're going to have unique personalities, differences, but just make it your own. When you're sharing your stories, I have a tendency to get a little more excited and I get fired up when I'm in the stadium. Not everybody does that. I think of the great Pat Summerall, Brent Musburger, some of the broadcasters today. Dick Vitale, I love that guy to death, but sometimes he gets too energetic, in describing a basketball play. Love him, but that's just not my style. So make it your own. Now, anybody that gets involved with this, they need to have a passion for sports. There's a lot of work involved. When on Friday nights, as we were preparing for broadcasting Texas high school football games, you don't just show up, 15 minutes before kickoff and plug your equipment in. It usually starts the week of. Now, football does take more work. I will say that. Basketball, baseball, not quite as much. The games are shorter. There's not as much content to produce. Football, we'd start preparing definitely a couple days in advance. You got to understand both rosters. There's a lot more players on each roster. The venues are unique. You have to understand, what type of broadcast booth you're going to have. There's been times where we show up and especially for a playoff game, and there was a miscommunication. We did our part, but somehow it fell through the cracks, and we get to a playoff game and realize that we don't have a booth. And we've had to broadcast literally from a table on a mezzanine venue or underneath the press box. And we can teach you how to do that, having a wireless internet, making sure, obviously, you have to have an extension cord and you have to have power. But those are actually some of the most fun and memorable games when you're right there on top of the fan base, live action. those were actually a lot of fun. They were a little nerve-wracking at the time when we had to make a change literally an hour before kickoff, but that's what you can expect, and have a lot of fun doing it. Here's an example. What we have built out a studio. I'm in the studio now. We started about 7-8 years ago a local broadcast production called the Denko Gridiron Show. That stands for Denton County, Texas. Denton County has a lot of great Texas high school football, and you can see we involved the community. We had some local media personalities that would join the show, sports writers from the local newspaper, and we talked about local high school football and did it in a live format. And we did some live events. I think I'll share a couple slides, much like a live radio show at a restaurant. We did that several times where we would go on a Saturday and have a live show at a live audience and stream it to the fan base at the same time. So those are just some ideas you can have to get plugged into your community, get involved with your sponsors. If you have a local restaurant group that sponsors your local high school team, and what a better way to show up on a Friday or Saturday, whatever night of the week, maybe a Tuesday night, and have a group of fans come out, support that local restaurant, and do a live or recorded show. Time and effort. Again, it takes, especially on the front end, it does take work. If you do a pregame show, you got to coordinate all that. You got to record with usually the coach. Sometimes we would bring in players, and that's a great way to showcase players for a coach to share that player perspective and really elevate their leadership. It might be a team captain or a player that is doing some great things. Could be a special teams player that is really getting the attention of that coach, but we would highlight their story and have just a couple minutes to talk to that player and end up in either the podcast or the video stream pregame or postgame. And the key is make it easy and comfortable. A lot of coaches, when they are on the sidelines, you would think they would have no issue when they're getting their defense or their offense fired up, or their halftime speech. It's coming right from the heart. It's raw and real. But guess what? When you put some headphones on them and you stick a microphone in their face, they become different. We all are. The thought of speaking in a microphone or into a camera is not easy. And we can help you get over that. And it's important for you, if you're running the game day broadcast, to help make the players and the coaches feel at ease. Play-by-play, it's important to really articulate the action. When we did game day for football, it was an audio format only. So we thought in terms of radio. And so you had to really describe the action. If you're doing a broadcast where you have a video element as well as audio, guess what? Typically they're seeing the action on the field. So it's a little different type of broadcast. You don't have to describe every single action on the field. You may not even have to describe that they're wearing white uniforms today and the other teams in their road blues, whatever it might be. You'll develop your own style and deliver that message as it's appropriate, and bring in elements, sponsor content, maybe recorded commercials from your sponsors. That's something that we did that added tremendous value to the sponsors of the local football or baseball program that we've worked with in the past. We've also done some things in the baseball world where we did a 2-day virtual event. I'm not saying that you'll get into that, but if you're a high school administrator, this might be something. Maybe you're doing a workshop and you want to broadcast some content or bring in a guest. Maybe everyone's in the same auditorium, but you want to bring in a guest speaker to share some content to your administrators, your teachers, or your coaches. If you're in the athletic department, there's some things there that we can help you do. During COVID, when no one could travel, right from the studio, we helped 2 large sports organizations conduct their business meetings. Normally they were in person for 2 or 3 days. We did a live virtual 2-day, all day event, and we can help you do that. If you're a business owner, that's something that you might want to do as well. It's a great way to connect people really from all over the world. It looks like we've got some comments. Let me check those real quick. Aaron Cass says, let's pop that up there. Aaron Cass, I have a sports podcast since 2020. Is there any good websites to find play-by-play broadcasting for high school sports? Great question, Aaron. If you'll send me an email, I will send you some content there. Appreciate that. Aaron is tuning in from Connecticut today. I appreciate you being on the broadcast, Aaron. That's fantastic. I would love to know more about your involvement there in the local community. Thanks for being here. Now, one thing we really enjoyed doing was involve the local students. You can see there were students that did either sideline reporting, coaches interviews. This is a student at AT&T Stadium where the Dallas Cowboys play, doing a Texas high school football playoff game, talking to that's head coach Dave Hennigan from the Denton Ryan Raiders, one of the great programs here, and not just North Texas, but all of Texas. And you can see on this side, we're doing a local basketball game. Now, this had a video element. We're doing play-by-play of a playoff basketball game. So anything is possible to get your message out there. And I can promise you it's a lot of fun. The adrenaline rush is second to none. And most importantly, when those family members and those coaches and even the players occasionally will thank you for the work that you do. Again, the key here is take elements. They say plagiarism is when you copy one person, but looking at other people's stuff is just really sharing ideas and best practices. And, take elements and styles from different broadcasters or podcasters that you like, but make it your own. Take your own personality and weave it into the game day production. I've seen more and more student bodies get involved in the game day production, especially sideline reporters or even young students. The University of North Texas, which is right down the road here, has a fantastic broadcast journalism department. And a lot of those students, they get experience on Friday nights. A lot of very successful Ted Emmerich, who does a great job with Westwood One Radio. He's a friend of mine here in Dallas. He does tremendous work. He's on Westwood One and does some stuff for ESPN. And he got his start while he was in North Texas doing Friday night games right here in Denton, Texas. So get your students involved. And we have another student that we just handed her a camera one Friday night during a game to help out. And as a result of that, a couple of years later, she ended up going to the University of Arkansas and studied broadcast journalism and media, and has become a news reporter because she just got that experience. And she would tell you, if she was sitting here right now, she had no idea what she wanted to do in the future. But getting some of that experience in high school helped shape her career and made her more confident speaking and communicating in front of an audience. Equipment. This is something, again, if you put in, send us an email, let me put the hashtag up again, because we won't get into a ton of the details about the equipment here because it can overwhelm you. It can overwhelm you. But just whatever platform you're watching on today, put in hashtag broadcast, hashtag podcast, and we'll reach out to you and we'll send you a list, maybe a mini ebook of the equipment. You can't see all the stuff I have in here, but we have a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And I think I may have some pictures I can share with you after the webinar. It can overwhelm you. It can overwhelm you. And the thing I'll leave you with today is don't overthink it. Keep it simple. That's how we like to roll. The easiest way to get your game day going or your podcast is through audio. If you add a video element, that adds a little complexity to it. You need a lot more bandwidth to get the video up onto the internet. But if you think you want to just start simple, perhaps you're in Texas and you want to start doing a game day production or a weekly podcast for baseball season, which starts in just a couple weeks. I'm confident you can get it started, but take action, start thinking about it today, and probably focus on audio only. I think baseball is a great sport for radio. I grew up a Cincinnati Reds fan and really enjoyed listening to those games on the radio. And most people, when they're walking around, they want to put audio in their ear. They can't watch it anyway. So think about that. Audio is a great way to get your game day production out there, whatever sport it might be. Problems. You are going to have problems. The key is communicate, practice, rehearse. I wanted to simulate what a game day would be like today. So we had this scheduled at 10 a.m. We did prepare. We worked on this for a week or so, but I rolled up in here literally 5 minutes before kickoff. No, I don't recommend that. You saw we had some technical issues on the front end if you tuned in. Practice, communicate, plan ahead, expect some bumps in the road. But you see, we took a step back, we reconfigured some things here, and we got back on the air. And that's really the key. No one, if you don't have a game day broadcast today, if you have a couple technical issues getting started, at the end of the day, who really cares? You're not ESPN, you're not Fox Sports. You will work through it and get more consistent and more comfortable each and every week. Let me take that off the screen. Again, you can drop me an email and we'll get you the information that you need since you showed up today. Suiting up and showing up is part of the deal, and we applaud you for that. Here's a great example. Here's a baseball post-game show. You got a player, coach selected a player of the game to come up and have an interview right here in the broadcast booth. The PA announcer took care of this one. And here's that example I told you. We were at a place in North Texas. It has a great Saturday morning brunch. And we broadcasted, we live streamed from that venue. We had a room full of people. We probably had 40, 50 people having brunch with us. So guess what? That sponsor generated a lot of revenue that day. The Booster Club came out. It was a lot of fun. It was a Saturday morning, after a game. And those are some of the things you can do in your community that maybe you've never done before. We've done Booster Clubs, brought them in, and had just the entire team come in and fill up an entire venue. And it's a lot of fun and a great way to reward your sponsors that have been writing checks to your program probably for several years. And I know a lot of sponsors or booster clubs, you get turnover, meaning somebody, it might be a roofing company, it might be a restaurant group. They might write a check one year, but they don't see a ton of value because they can't measure it. And guess what? They're not sponsoring your program because they expect a lot of business out of it. That's not what they're doing. They're trying to help the community. But when you can draw attention to their business through things like this, through a media, game day production, short video, they will appreciate it. And they'll most likely renew next year when you go ask them to write another check, and the year after. And that's really the key that can help you generate more revenue for your program. All right. Well, I think that is going to wrap us up. Post some more questions in there if you can. Let me see if I got some other things to cover real quick. But it's been phenomenal. Again, thank you so much for being here. Again, my name is John Piper. I started this journey 8 years ago without any experience. I didn't go to school to learn how to broadcast or do media work. And when I got started, it was before Facebook Live, YouTube Live, all this stuff. We had to go around town with a camera crew, record stuff, edit. It's a lot simpler today with the tools and the software and the bandwidth to stream, on 5G to get your game day out there to make an impact in your community. I promise you, the coaches are going to appreciate it. The players are going to appreciate it. But most importantly, the moms, dads, aunts, uncles, grandparents that can tune in wherever they are going to really appreciate the work you put in. And I applaud you. If you're ready to get started, drop us a note and we'll extend a hand and help you get your game day right and ready. Take care. Y'all have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon.